الحمد لله وحده والصلاة والسلام على من لا نبي بعده أما بعد Inshallah ta'ala in today's lesson we will stop continuing with the fiqh of Salah from Imam Shurumul Ali's Nurul Idaah and move on to the chapter on Zakat. Zakah, the reason being that Ramadan, alhamdulillah, is coming very soon and one should have clear understanding of the subject. Inshallah ta'ala, we will resume from Kitab al-Salah, the prayer book, where we left last week, inshallah ta'ala, after Ramadan. So, Zakat is third pillar of Islam after Tawheed and Salah, and it literally means to purify. Another meaning is growth and also blessing. It has been made obligatory and there is difference of opinion, but most scholars would consider that it was made obligatory on first Ramadan in the year second after Hijrah, the second year after Hijrah. When Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam migrated to Medina, the second year was the time when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam got it obligated by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It was also an obligation in the previous generation, previous ummah, previous nations, but they had different quantum. According to some, they had 25% of their zakat, their wealth, to be paid as zakat. And it has been mentioned 32 times in Quran with salah. Aqim as-salah, aqim as-salah, wa aqim as-salah, iqamat as-salah, wa aqamu as-salah, wa aqim as-salah, wa atu zakah. So it has appeared about 32 times in different forms in Quran along with salah. So this is the significance of zakat. So that is why it is an obligation, and anyone who rejects, who says that I do not believe in zakat being an obligation, this would amount to disbelief. This would take him outside of the fold of Islam. One has to believe. That is why it is a pillar. Even if he pays, but he believes that you don't have to. It is not an obligation. I'm just doing it as charity. So one cannot reject the fact that this is an obligation from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if someone believes that this is an obligation and yet he doesn't fulfill his obligation, he doesn't do it, this is a major sin. To not do an obligation, not perform an obligation is a major sin. So one should be very careful about not holding and withholding zakat. There's a narration in Sunan Abi Dawood whereby Abdullah ibn Abbas mentioned that when this particular ayah وَالَّذِينَ يَكْنِزُونَ الذَّهَبَ وَالْفِضَّةَ from Surah Tawbah revealed, when that ayat was revealed, he said كَبُرَ ذَلِكَ عَلَى الْمُسْلِمِينَ. Muslims found it very hard and difficult because it was a big thing. Because it means those who hoard gold and silver, those who save gold and silver, and there's a punishment mentioned after that in Quran, and they do not spend in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, on the day of judgment they will be punished with that. They would be, so that metal, gold and silver, will be melted and they would be marked with that. They will be cauterized with that hot molten metal. So that punishment is very severe in Quran, mentioned about those. So they found it very distressing. So they said among themselves, Subhanallah, we have got some gold and silver in our account, and the ayah says, وَالَّذِينَ يَكْنِزُونَ الذَّهَبَ وَالْفِضَّةَ, those who keep gold and silver. But Sayyidina Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu said, I would find a way out for you lot. Don't worry. He went to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and he said, Ya Rasulullah, your companions are very concerned about this ayah. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not make zakat obligatory upon you, except that Allah wanted to purify your wealth through this zakat. So you would pay zakat and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will purify rest of your zakat, rest of your mal, rest of your wealth. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has also made inheritance obligatory for you so that you can help people who are left behind you after you passed away. So Sayyidina Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he became very overjoyed and happy. He said, Allahu Akbar. And then he said, and then Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, shall I tell you though, what is better than the kanz, the wealth, the treasure that you keep, the amount of gold and silver that you keep to your account that you want to save in this world? What is better than that? What is much more better than that is a pious wife. When you look at her, she would make you happy. When you command her, she would listen and obey. And when you are not present, she would look after your house and her chastity and your children. Then there's stern warning in the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, which appeared in Sahih al-Bukhari and Sahih Muslim both, narrated through Sayyidina Abu Hurairah radiallahu ta'ala anhu. And he said, whoever has been given mal, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has bestowed him with mal, فَلَمْ يُؤَدِّ زَكَاتَهُ, and he does not pay zakat on it, مُثِّلَ لَهُ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ شُجَاعًا أَقْرَعًا, his wealth will be made to appear before him on the day of judgment in the form of a bold serpent with two horns, two spots, له زبيبتان يطوقه يوم القيامة, and he would become a tawq around his neck on the day of judgment. Means he would encircle, he would become a snooze around his neck on the day of judgment. ثم يأخذ بلهزمتيه, then he would then on the day of judgment, أي شدقيه, he would take the serpent would hold him from the hand with his two jaw bones and say, Ana maluk, I am your wealth, Ana kanzuk, I am your hoarded treasure. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam recited, لا يحسبن الذين يبخلون بما أتوا al-ayah. So those who not pay zakat on their wealth, they will be punished with that serpent who would just bite onto the jaw. So we need to be very, very careful. There's a big punishment for that. So what does zakat mean? It means few things. Number one, to purify, as I mentioned earlier, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, خُذْ مِنْ أَمْوَالِهِمْ صَدَقَةً تُطَهِّرُهُمْ وَتُزَكِّيهِمْ بِهَا, take from their wealth so that you might purify and sanctify them, do tazkiyah of them. Another meaning is nama, which is growth. When a person says that the plant has grown, so they use word nama, which is zakah, which means that it increased. So the zakat means increase. And it also means glorify, to glorify. Allah says, فَلَا تُزَكُّوا أَنفُسَكُمْ, do not glorify and purify, do not make yourself and give yourself a certificate of purification. In Shari'i term, in Islamic law, sacred law, it means to make someone else malik of the wealth, a certain amount of wealth. Tamlik means to make someone else malik, in charge owner. So to give the ownership of certain amount of wealth that has been stipulated by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and this ownership should be towards a poor Muslim who is non-Hashimi, not from the lineage of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and neither a slave from them. So what it means is that you make someone else completely an owner of that wealth. So that person is independent owner of that wealth which initially you own, but you gave it to him. And that person becomes the owner and has completely exclusive control over it. And he has the right to use it wherever he wants to use it. You do not have any say, but rather he is in charge and master of and the owner of that wealth. So you're making someone else malik of your wealth, a proportion of your wealth, a portion of that. So there are 5 conditions. It is a must that the person who is obligated to pay zakat is a Muslim. So non-Muslims are exempt from it. He must be free, not a slave. He must be mature. So a young person, young boy or girl, if they're pre-pubertal, they would not be obliged to pay zakat, even if they are wealthy. They should be sane. A majnoon, someone who hasn't got intact faculties of brain, low IQ, they are not obliged by Sharia for anything anyway, likewise zakat. And they must possess nisab. So what is nisab or quantum? Nisab is the minimum amount over which zakat is obligatory. And it must be the thing that zakat will be obligatory upon must be of a productive nature. There must be a growth. That particular thing should grow, either actually grow or it should have some growth with regards to its value. So for example, grazing cattle, they can multiply. Cows, camels, goats, sheep, they can multiply, they can have more children, they can have more babies, so they can continue to increase. So there is some nama there. Crops can grow and grow certain times in a year. Gold and silver, they do not grow as such, but their value grows. Their value continues to go up or maintain to a degree, but there is extra value added to them every so often. And likewise, the business merchandise. So the nisab is the sum of wealth large enough to require the owner to pay zakat on it. And there are certain things which are of non-productive nature, means they do not multiply. Even if they are in excess of one's needs, you do not pay zakat on them. For example, car. If you have a car for personal use, even if you have more than one car, you do not have to pay zakat on that, with the intention that you are not keeping those cars to sell, because that would be your merchandise where you are maturing it and selling it at a later date. Those who do business, so that's a different matter. But personal use, cars, however many cars you have, whether it could be luxury, it could be superfluous activity, it could be extravagance, and we shouldn't be doing that. But even then, you are not obliged to pay zakat on excess of cars, for example, 3, 4, 5 cars, as long as you have not got intention of selling them. Utensils, food, clothing, shelter, furniture, The items which are not for sale, you do not have to pay zakat on them. So once you have had that nisab, you should have a year, lunar year, passed on you in that state. So many people get it confused. They think that every wealth that you have should be for you, with you for a year. That wealth should be with you for a year before you pay zakat on that. So that's not right. You should have a year passed on you in the state that you had the possession of nisab for whole year. We come to the nisab. Imagine nisab is X value. So the minute you got X amount of money, is actually this year is going to be for silver about 220, 25, about that. Yeah, 222 pounds, 225 pounds roughly. So whenever you have acquired this much amount of money which is in excess of your basic needs, so you have paid your bill for that month, you do not owe anyone any money, means you are not in debt, you've paid it all off. This is just extra. You have got your basic day-to-day stuff sorted out. You've got your food, your grocery done, your bills paid, your rent done. So this is after you have done all of that, you managed to save about 222 pounds. So the day you got this, you become Sahib Nisab. So Islamic date, lunar calendar date. So you become Sahibun Nisab. Doesn't have to be Ramadan, could be any time of the year. So for most people, it will be, for most men, it will be perhaps when they have had their first paycheck, when they had their first job and they got the pay, unless they have some debts to their account, they owed some money to someone else, they will be having about 222 pounds or about the nisab value, whatever is the nisab value at that time. So that is the date. That Islamic date is the day that you become Sahibun Nisab, means you become mature to have a Sahibun Nisab. From that Islamic date, a year later, the same date, same Islamic date, a year later, you will look at everything that you have in your possession after you have deducted all your essentials, your debts and everything else. Whatever is left, you would pay 2.5% zakat on that. Even if you had £1,000 added to it a night before, even if you had £20,000 given to you as inheritance by your father a month earlier or even a day before, doesn't matter. Even if you had your pay for that month 2 days earlier, you count all of that money on that date in your account, whatever is the net saving after deducting your essential requirements, essential debt. I will come to that in a minute. The debt we are talking about is the debt which you are supposed to pay within a year. So the loan that people have from their mortgages, regardless of whether the mortgage is halal or haram, whichever one they have, not talking about that, but obviously they have got a loan to pay in terms of their mortgage for next 20, 30, 40 years. That is not counted as loan in Sharia, because loan means that you have got some burden to be paid within a year. So yes, some scholars, contemporary scholars, would allow you to deduct from your net saving the amount of next 12 installments for your mortgage. So for example, if you were paying £1,000 every month, the £12,000 can be deducted from your net saving, and whatever is left, you would pay 2.5% on that, regardless of whether you acquire that within a day before that, a month before that, a year before that, doesn't matter. On that day, you are in the state of being Sahibun Nisab, you would pay that amount. It doesn't matter if there was any fluctuations throughout the year, provided that the fluctuation was such that you have actually came below the Nisab level at one point. So you had Nisab £225 on 1st of Dhul Hijjah last year. So 1st of Dhul Hijjah, you got your first pay. You paid all your basic essential bills, food, groceries done, kids' fees and everything else. Now you have got about £225, £300, whatever, extra to your account. You are a Sahibun Nisab for the first time on this day, because this is the first time you acquired that much amount as a net saving. So this first Zulhijjah is your date. If you continue to be Sahibun Nisab throughout the year, but your money goes up and down. Next Muharram, a month later, you have £500 in your account in excess. A couple of months later, you actually had 300 only. You used up some of that. Next month, you've got £1,000. Then you have some 300, £400. So every so often it goes up and down. The fluctuation is happening throughout the year. It is not significant. It doesn't make any difference. I mean, it has no value in Sharia until and unless you do not come below the level of Nisab. So say in next Rabiul Awwal, Rabiul Thani, you go below the Nisab level for another 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, and then you got another saving and you became Sahibun Nisab again. That would be your new Sahibun Nisab date, and you would pay zakat on that date a year later. But if you do not fluctuate in such a way that you go below the Nisab level, then you remain Sahibun Nisab and you pay zakat 2.5% on net saving on 1st of Dhul Hijjah the next year. Is that clear to everyone? Okay. So the fluctuation on wealth doesn't count as long as it doesn't go below the Nisab level, and the variation is perfectly fine. It's okay. Even if you had something a day before your Nisab, your zakat date, or even if you lost, God forbid, or you had to pay something, a good lump sum of 10,000, you have 15,000, just a day before that, you ended up giving it to someone else for whatever reason. Then you only pay zakat on those 5,000 which is left to your account on that day. And you had that 10,000 for whole year except for last day, you wouldn't pay zakat on that, provided that it has come out of your account. Now many people saying, but I have got plans for this money. For example, my zakat is due in Ramadan and I have planned to go for Hajj. I need to pay the fees or the Hajj money, which is due in 2 months' time. So I'm keeping that for that reason. Or my daughter is getting married in 3 months' time. I've got some savings. That money is going to that. Do I need to pay zakat? You have to pay zakat on that. You have to pay zakat on that, be it for Hajj or your fees, college fees, your children's wedding, whatever it is. Unless you have done so. So you planned Hajj in 3 months' time and you have paid the down payment or whole payment now. That's fine. Then you do not have to pay zakat on that. That's gone out of your account. It's not with you on that day that you're due to pay zakat on. So anticipation doesn't help. If you have done it now, it's gone out of your account, then you do not have to pay zakat on that. So if it stays with you on that day, then you have to pay zakat on that. And it doesn't matter when you acquired it, a day before, a month before, or whole year before that. I hope I have elaborated on that too much, and it should be very clear to you. So don't ask and don't get concerned about that. I hope you know it very well. Stick with this. Okay. So you are obligated now to pay zakat the next year on that Islamic date. So don't make it a solar date, our normal calendar date, Gregorian calendar, rather lunar calendar, Islamic calendar. And there will be difference because every year you get 10 days less. After 30 years, you would have actually missed out a zakat for whole 1 year. So roughly about 32 years, you would have done 1 year worth of zakat skipped. So, and there will be a punishment for you on the day of judgment because you have not fulfilled your obligation. So it has to be lunar. Now, what if I do not remember my date, my anniversary, my zakat? When was the first time I became Sahibun Nisab? You need to work it out. Nowadays, it's easy. You can go back to your bank statements. You would know when was the first time you acquired that much, or have rough estimate of when that was, and start paying from that. Whatever is left, you have to pay zakat from the previous years. You don't have to pay it all in one go now, but you can do it in small chunks over the next few years, and then make a will so that the people after you would know that there has been an issue and my father or my uncle or my brother, my son wanted to pay, he couldn't pay, but he has written it down, and from his savings we can pay that. Now, if you do not do that, the inheritors, those who would inherit your wealth, your children or your family, they are not obliged by Sharia to pay zakat on your behalf. You have to stipulate it. You have to tell them that you should be doing it on my behalf based on whatever. So this is what I need to do. Otherwise, they are not obliged. They wouldn't do it. And if you've done it after your death as a will, they are only obliged after your wasiyah. They're only obliged to do up to 1/3 of the inheritance. So, for example, if you left behind £100,000 and you had to pay zakat for the last 10 years, and that was about £40,000, that is more than 1/3 of the total wealth. 1/3 was £33,000. You have asked them to pay £40,000, so they are not obliged by Sharia to pay more than 1/3. So they are allowed. They should pay from 1/3 of your inheritance. So they would do 33,000, 7,000. They're not obliged. They might want to do it. They may opt for not doing it. You will be sinful for that. So pay your zakat, make a will, write it down, start doing it in chunks slowly over the next few years, so that you do not have any debt to your account on the day of judgment. One can pay zakat in advance. So you want to pay zakat now for Ramadan, then it's okay. You can do so in advance, thinking that there's a need for help for people. Many people are in dire situation, and they will be in the next few weeks. So I can pay them now. That's okay as well. And one has to have the intention. Without intention, your zakat is not valid. You have to have the intention at the time of separating the money from your account, with the intention that this is my zakat and I've separated it, even if you haven't given it to the person yet, but you have got that in your mind that this money is out. This is not my money. £3,000 from my account is actually a zakat, and you've kept it somewhere, and you would give it to them in the next week or whenever. So you have to have the intention, or you give it to some wakil being the person who is distributing that zakat on your behalf. So that person, like an individual or the charity, so the time that you gave it to them, then your intention has to be for paying your zakat. If you do not do that without intention, just donate it, and after donating, few weeks later, you realize actually I could have made that my zakat. You can't do that. You can't do that. You have to have intention at the time of taking the money out of your pocket. At the time that you take it out, the minute it gets separated from you, you should have that intention of paying your zakat. So the question about, oh, I had this money given to my friend or family and they can't afford to pay it back, can I make it into zakat? No, you can't, because the time when you gave it to them, you did not intend for zakat. It can't be on hindsight made into zakat. So retrospectively, you cannot make it into zakat. Okay, intention should be at the time of doing it. And you do not have to tell the person that I'm giving you zakat. This is zakat money. You do not. You do not have to. Some people find it very offensive. Some people don't like it. But you need to be clear that the person deserves to be a recipient of zakat. He is a valid Shari'i recipient of zakat. Because if he is not, and you have given him zakat, then your zakat is not done. Your zakat is not valid. And obviously, if you didn't tell him, he wouldn't tell you back that, oh, I'm not entitled for zakat. I'm rather, because I'm Sayyid, for example, I'm from the family of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, or I have got some wealth in the form of a piece of land which I have kept so that I can build my house on that. So it bars me from taking any zakat, but I haven't got enough money. I'm very poor, so I need help, but I can't have zakat because of that piece of land, for example. So it is extremely important that we know it. Yeah, we have to identify the right person. It's our responsibility, but you do not have to tell them that this is zakat money. And zakat will be paid on gold and silver, whichever form or fashion you have it in, be it in the form of those billions or it's like a jewelry or whichever. So likewise, cash of any notes, bank notes. Livestock is another commodity like camels, cows, sheep, goats. According to Abu Hanifa, even horses are considered. The livestock means the cattle that graze on pastures, the easy. And if you have trade stuff that you want to trade on, your merchandise, so you have to pay zakat on that as well. Any crop, if you're a farmer, you have got huge plantations, yes, you have to pay zakat on that. Every time you get a plantation, every time you got a crop, not just once a year, every time you get it. Then if you find it, or you found a treasure, any minerals, any gas, any gold, whatever you got in a mine or something like that, so you have to pay zakat on that. And what is the nisab on gold and silver? So the nisab of gold and silver. So nisab of gold is 20 misqal, which is about 87 grams. 87 grams. For silver, it is 200 dirhams, which is about 700 grams. And in tolas, 7.5 tola of gold and 52.5 tola of silver. If I could remind everyone that never open your cameras on. So you're not supposed to have your cameras on. Just listen to the talk and you can ask questions, but never have your cameras on, please. Thank you. So on this nisab, you would pay 2.5%, which is half misqal, which is 40th part, 1/40th part or 1/40th of that nisab. If you have currency, then you have to pay zakat on that as well. So 20 misqal, as you know, yeah? So 87 grams, and this little bit of summary there, which I show you in a second, which I move on to quickly because this is old repetition, and there's a lot of some details which would benefit some scholars, but just for most people, the nisab would be for gold. It is 20 misqal. 20 misqal. Okay, 20 misqal, which is 87.48 grams of gold. 87.48 grams of gold. And you have to have that, which in the current time, as of today, 3,612.22 pounds worth of gold. So that is the amount. So if you have gold of that much, which is 87.48 grams, in current time, this is the nisab of gold. And with regards to silver, 200 dirhams is about 612.36 grams. And as of today, this would be 222.84 pounds. Now, why did I mention that? If someone has, so listen to this carefully, if someone has just gold, pure gold, and there's no other saving at all, they haven't got extra pound, they haven't got any piece of land, they haven't got any trade stuff, they would be able and entitled to use the nisab of gold, which means that they would not have to pay zakat on the wealth unless they come to the level 87.48 grams. 87.48 grams. 87.48 grams. You are below that. Even if you have 87 grams or 86 grams, you would not need to pay zakat on that. But if you had extra cash, even 1 pound, 2 pounds, which is after you've had your basic necessities and needs met, then that nisab is not valid for you. You would use the nisab of silver. You would have to use the nisab of silver. So with regards to gold, just it is for pure gold, and it is quite unlikely for someone to just have pure gold and no cash at all. Yeah, they might not have hundreds of pounds, but they may have few £100, few £50, £10, £5. Then they would not use the nisab of gold, they would use the nisab of silver. This is to benefit the poor people. That is why Rasulullah suggested that, and we actually take that in Hanafi school. And then, so 222.84 pounds, the nisab of silver, which is much lower than what the nisab of gold is. So most people would actually use the silver nisab. Okay, so anyone who has this much amount after they've had their basic necessities fulfilled, and that net amount they would have to pay zakat on. Now, sometimes you feel, oh, that's too much. 2.5% is a lot. People always ask this question, can I pay zakat to this cause? Can I do this for this cause? Can I give it to my whatever? So remember, 2.5% zakat is not a lot. Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam's nation had to pay 25%. People who live in the world today, they know that they have to pay taxes, which is way above 2.5%. And the people who take your tax from your wealth, they do not even consider your requirements, your obligations, your expenditure. They rather take it before even they give it to you. So they do not let you have your wealth for a year, spend it, and when something is being left with you in excess of this much, then pay 2.5% to those poor people who live in your community in order to help them out and help yourself. You would get reward for that. You would get a place in Jannah, inshallah ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would consider it to be a loan and He would return it back even with a lot more. And the people who you would give zakat to would actually be living at some basic level of livelihood, and they would not become jealous of you. They would not try to harm you by looking at your things and doing hasad, doing jealousy, because the jealousy can affect you badly. That is why we make dua, وَمِن شَرِّ حَاسِدٍ إِذَا حَسَدٍ. So you do not want to create a negative environment, negative sentiments among people against your wealth. So you give it to them, and that is how there will be less problem in the society. So you are actually benefiting from donating this zakat, and obviously in the life hereafter is much more beneficial. So do not let shaitan and nafs make us think that I am paying 2.5%, which is a lot. Rather, look at 97.5% of that extra money is still with you and in your own account. It is not the 2.5% which is important. It is 97.5%, which is way more than what you have actually given. And it is with you, and it is extra as well. So don't be materialistic in that sense and feel upset. May Allah give us tawfiq to understand the concept of zakat. It purifies our wealth. It helps us. It gives our brothers and sisters in the community a bit of extra help so that they can live a normal, sensible, basic life. And inshallah ta'ala, through this, there's some harmony to be created in the society. May Allah give us tawfiq. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله.